Welcome to Toastmasters cast. My guest today is a really inspiring storyteller where she crossed her communication through Iraq and the countries in the region. Her journey blends a lot of strength, creativity, and impact. And today, we got the pleasure to get to know the story behind all these titles. So please help me all to welcome Maryam Jameel. Hi, Maryam.
Hi Murooj, how are you?
We were planning for this since like a month ago.
Yes. It's been quite a long time, but I'm really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much. I was really like before I start like hosting you and starting to communicate with you about this episode. I was like taking a look at Maryam about her journey, and I know a little bit about you, but then a lot of things inspired me about your journey. So, what was Maryam? Here's the question. What was the turning point in your life that made you who you are today?
Well, the turning point for me was during my college years. That was a transitional moment. I would say I discovered a lot about myself. I also discovered more about the path that I want to take in life. When you're young, you really effectively don't know what you're doing. And you go through different stages, you go through different things in life that shape who you are today. So the turning point for me, which basically made me who I am, and you talked about storytelling, communications, and all of that. That all happened during college. It was quite a challenging period because not only you have studies, the graduation project, you're going through your teenage years, so much is happening, family, everything. You want to keep everything in balance, but for me, the turning point was realizing that I shouldn't fixate my whole life on one idea, which is, I studied engineering and I have to stay as an engineer my whole life. I started discovering new career paths. I was lucky and fortunate, honestly, that I had some talented people, supportive people in my life, including university professors, friends, some really innovative students, because the mindset that I always observed around me, and that's, it was challenging because the environment that I lived in always urged me to stay in a box.
And rough.
Exactly. It's tough, technical, engineers are
not of course.
the softest people, so everyone was complaining about not finding a governmental job.
Yeah, that's a problem nowadays.
Exactly, and I think that strong economies, strong countries do not rely on governmental jobs. There are with so many successful stories for other countries in the region with a thriving private sector, and I really believe that's the way to go. I started thinking about, what am I passionate about? Like my personality is someone who has to just do something,
Yes, you cannot do any, stay doing nothing.
I can't just sit and do nothing, so I started volunteering.
How was it? I mean, it's the beginning, always, with volunteering.
So many mistakes. I was rushing things all the time. I didn't know, I had no idea what I'm doing. Honestly, I was really young, and I think that I was maybe too nice sometimes, even. So that was Maryam at the time, and I think I'm proud that I never shied away from doing anything. I would reach out to people. I went on Facebook groups, volunteer teams on Facebook. I talked to them. I said, hey, I have, back in the days it was really just having...
Not really common volunteering.
Exactly. So I reached out. I made an honest effort to find something and just kickstart my career. Because I was really thinking, okay, so people in the West start working when they're 16, 15.
Exactly, that's the common.
Exactly. I'm behind. I felt really bad because I'm behind. I really envy people who started working in high school years, because you get the experience. You experience the politics of a workplace.
Exactly,
you understand what's happening. And volunteering for me, I worked at a local organization. It's an NGO.
Yeah.
One of the professors was a board member, and he would basically choose students who have
Passion.
Exactly. And he thought, Maryam, you always talk about communications. I think you will fall into the PR department.
Wow.
So I started as a PR and social media assistant. And from there is when I found my passion in communications, PR, and marketing.
That's amazing.
And I've been working in the field for almost 7 years now.
Wow.
I'm glad I started in college if I stayed in that box. So for me, you know, I think what I've really been trying to do is trying to get out of my comfort zone as much as possible.
Yeah,
that's the message.
That's really essential, and especially with volunteering, it's the place where you can make mistakes and be ready for the work field.
Exactly.
And that's really an amazing start.
Thank you.
From what I heard from you now, you were wearing many hats: an engineer, a communicator, a leader, and a Toastmaster.
Mm-hmm.
Which one of those you see more relatable to you?
Well, I can't just pick one, to be honest with you, because each one of them makes who Maryam is today. So they make up my personality and who I am. Because being a communicator is the essence of every career path that I've ever taken in my life. So you can't be an engineer and you're not a good communicator.
Exactly.
You have to know the technical terms, you have to translate them into easy concepts that are digestible by a normal and a simple audience. And I think that the art of communication is being able to speak to your audience, knowing who that person is in front of you, and tailoring your messages based on their interests. You know, when I started studying professional, like higher education marketing courses, is when I realized that marketing and communications is actually, it's psychology.
Yeah.
It's funny because you literally have to, I don't want to say manipulate people, but
It's managing their perception.
yes,
for
exactly.
example. Yes.
So it's studying demographics, studying mindsets, studying personalities, and I love being a marketer because it's easier to see results. So comms and marketing are two different things.
Yeah.
In many organizations, there's a marcom department, there's a marketing and communications department. A lot of the organizations that I worked in, which are, you know, international development, governments, they have only a communications department.
Yeah.
Because communications is kind of more old school, press releases, you know, media, more than number driven and commercial.
And data, yeah.
Exactly, but I've also worked in marketing, which is also really interesting because you can see results faster.
Yeah.
You can see the KPIs. You know, plan a campaign.
It's like you see all the picture.
Exactly.
The thing that mostly what's knowing about engineers that they're not really a good communicators.
Oh.
And that really against the concept of communication in engineering. So what's the one skill that you learned from your path in engineering that really helped you in marketing?
Okay, that's a good question. Yes, that is. I mean, it's not fully a stereotype. It is somewhat true because engineers spend time in the field. They spend time in labs because I did that. You know, I literally moved from making materials and oil samples to delivering speeches, to helping people deliver speeches, to creating marketing campaigns. And that is true, but I think that I believe that a human has many talents, but they don't discover them until they try. Yes. So Murooj, you could be a good pianist. You could be really good at playing piano, but you just don't know it yet.
Yeah, exactly.
Until you practice it. And I think that I'm fortunate to have been one of those people. You know, there are things that I really hate, like finance, for example, or programming. I'm not a programming guru. Yeah, absolutely not. So I think what I was able to reflect. So I hate the idea that is now, you know, marketed nowadays, which is you don't need a degree, let's just quit universities and go home. Because while I didn't work in engineering, it has shaped who I am in many ways. I would say critical thinking skills, problem solving, which every professional needs nowadays. These are really important, and I learned them from engineering. Convincing, negotiation, you know, dealing with engineering professors is not easy.
No.
You need to be a good communicator. Yes. And also dealing with numbers, because I think, and I believe in that, as a good marketer, you need to be able to showcase results.
Yeah.
You're accountable. When you have a budget, you have to show the results of your marketing efforts.
All the structure.
Exactly, the strategies. Where is the money going? And there is this the common stereotype that marketeers only do talking, and that's where in modern marketing, the idea of KPIs and indicators emerged
It really
to show results.
Yeah, like complies both concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing, which is all about concepts, and then data. You show both in one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, exactly.
So I really loved what you talk about. As I remember that you joined Toastmasters in a time that you were in a career shifting path. How did joining Toastmaster added to your journey in your career path?
Good question. I'm going to sound biased, but I should have mentioned that in the beginning, because joining Toastmasters was actually, 70%, it added up to 70% of who I am today. It's big. It's in my early years. Finding such a community and such a place, it was a blessing, especially in Iraq, because we don't have many resources.
Rarely we find.
We don't have many social clubs. We don't, I think of Toastmasters like an ecosystem. So it's not just a public speaking club. It's a support system. You have the people. You have the education, access to training and education, meeting like-minded individuals. It inspired me every day. So you will be surprised, because now I've stood on stages, I've presented in front of government officials, ambassadors, I have no problem going into any meeting with any amount of people and speaking, and I think that that's partly due to Toastmasters, being part of Toastmasters. In college, I was an introvert. Can you believe that I was an introvert?
Same here, and I think it reflects something in Toastmasters.
So when I joined Toastmasters, started practicing public speaking, the first evaluation that I got from my mentor was that I sound like a robot, and I'm too monotonic, and I think when I look back at my early speeches, I can see that with practice, standing on that stage every day, table topics, answering questions unprepared, is what helped me gain confidence. Not only confidence to speak on a stage, but I made friends that are like me. That's my favorite part of Toastmasters, is the family that you make. So a lot of my Toastmasters, the people I met at Toastmasters are now my best friends. There are people that are really close to my heart. I was able to access networking opportunities. So in some way or another, one of the jobs that I got was through someone that I knew at Toastmasters. They saw my potential, encouraged me to apply to a position with their company. And my message would be to anyone is 100% worth investing in becoming a Toastmasters member.
Yes.
Because I think that the problem is nowadays universities, it's a decades.
Exactly.
The issue goes back to decades. You learn textbooks. You don't learn the skills that make you ready to take a job in the market. And part of what Toastmasters does is that job readiness aspect helps you get the soft skills that you need in a job market.
And with universities now, they don't teach you how you can present. And this is really an essential skill that really Toastmasters focus on. So, in general, when you joined Toastmasters, is there any moment that you felt like it's really bigger than just public speaking? It's even more than that.
Yes, I think it's part of what I mentioned earlier. So it's for me not just a public speaking club, but a community and a commitment. I think that, for example, I filled up some officer roles during my time at Toastmasters, and that's where I learned actual professional commitment to people, I learned ethical standards. I learned that once you have a duty, a task, you can't just disappear and go back to sleep. You have to earn the respect of your colleagues. And that's something that I hold close to my heart every day in any job that I take, because I know that it's a commitment to my employer, to the people around me. I also think that more than just a public speaking club, again, it's a family, it's a community, and
you build up with it.
you can find friends, you can find best friends.
As a communicator and someone who works in marketing, what was harder? Is it building a trust of a million audience online, or building a trust with a room in a company?
This is a question that I get all the time. I think that both are equally difficult, and I'll explain to you why.
Yeah.
So communicating online is difficult because you are holding a commitment to people. Any message that you put out there could be misunderstood very easily. So especially for me, the sector that I work in is, it's the humanitarian sector, development, international organizations. One wrong message damages your brand, your reputation, and the same thing goes for private sector companies, based on my experience. Because any wrong message will damage your brand. It will damage the trust that you've built with your audience. But there is always a room to think. You can think before you publish that message, before you publish that post or tweet, whatever, before you make that interview, you prepare. So there is always an edit button. But in a room full of people, the difficulty lies in people always sensing your energy. You have to be really smart, you have to practice, you have to prepare. Like when I come to you, Murooj, and I try to lie about something, it's going to be obvious. You can feel my energy, you can see my body language and gestures. And so building the relationship face to face in a room full of people. And that's why, like, for example, a lot of interviews are in person, because the employer doesn't want to just hear your answers. They want to see your body language, because that reflects how you're going to communicate in a professional environment. So I would say that each one of them has its own unique kind of challenges.
And really, face to face, like, it really makes a lot of complex, as you said, because there is a body language and there is, like, dealing with the human brain. It's really like a science, how you can deal with each one, different personalities.
Yes.
So you've managed a lot of communication crises in your work, like personal life. What is one thing that you realized in a human behavior that there is no textbook could tell?
Okay. I would say that especially for crisis communications and dealing with crisis communications, what no textbook taught me is how important it is to be flexible and adaptable and prepared. So when no one will forgive you if there's a crisis like a natural disaster or political crisis, or let's say a product falling down, someone having publishing a really bad review.
Yes.
Nowadays, consumers ask so much of companies, and their needs have shifted through the years. So customers will not just look at a company with a customer service department and be like, okay, that's great, they talk to me. That's why, exactly. They want to see, they want follow-up, they want to be cared about. That's what people want. They want to be cared about. They want to feel heard. More than clarity. So what matters the most now to people is clarity. I meant being, feeling heard. And so in crisis communications, it's really important to be flexible and adaptable. So I'll give you an example.
Yes.
You published a you launched a product, and the way people reacted to it was really negative. They thought it doesn't, you don't care about the environment.
Yeah.
Lots of plastic used in the product. So what you have to be, what you should have done, what your audience expects you to do, is that you have toolkits. Yeah. You have talking points, you have speeches for your leaders, for your CEO, you have a marketing campaign that is approved, because we all know how hard it is to get approvals for social media posts. So you have content that is ready. You can publish it anytime to counter that narrative, to, let's say, display how your company is committed to corporate social responsibility principles, how you're making a change let's say by training people on climate change topics, or how your other product is really environmentally friendly, you're using tote bags instead of plastic bags. So that's just an example. Preparedness and readiness, and I've fallen into that mistake. I'm not saying I'm perfect. In my early years, I didn't know how to deal with this issue, and I found that being prepared, always having things at hand, even if people sometimes at work accuse me of asking for too much approvals, preparing too much, always asking for things. But that's what helped me drive successful campaigns. Exactly.
Yes. I mean, especially with the Iraq market, it's really hard to deal with the Iraqi mindset, because the Iraqi mindset customer is really difficult to deal because it's really changeable.
Yes.
So I can relate to that because being a marketer in such mindset of customers really requires from you a lot to
yes.
prepare.
I have to add something to that. Iraq is a whole different game.
Yes.
Because things change all the time. Trends impact everything. Trust with people is everything. Iraqi people will not trust someone who just shows up with fancy spreadsheets and numbers and KPIs. They need a human face-to-face connection.
Exactly.
They need a real connection, so you need a lot of emotional intelligence. You need to manage your presence. You need to really connect with people, understand their specific and unique needs. Yes. That's why as Maryam, I think you always need locals on your team. No matter what. Like, for example, if I'm working on a campaign in Basra, I need someone from Basra to tell me what I'm doing. I don't know everything. I want to know if they approve of this message. What's the best way to communicate with oil companies? Just giving an example. But yes, in Iraq, it's really important to be careful, prepare and plan, and be ready for changes.
That's amazing. It is. It's really true. And as someone who's really in the beginning of marketing, studying about it, it's really difficult. So I'm really amazed of your way of explaining it all.
You're amazing yourself. Thank you, Murooj.
The last, a month ago, I saw you online posting that you were recognized as the Young Talent of the Year. What was your feeling when you heard that news after you having a lot of experience and achievements, and then you were recognized for this award? Was it excitement, disbelief?
Yes, it was a mix of everything. It was a beautiful moment. I couldn't believe it at first, I'll be honest with you. I couldn't believe it. I was sitting with my girl best friends. And that was a beautiful moment, because when I got the email, when I got the message that I won the award, you should come and attend the ceremony after, all the steps that I went through. And I even forgot about it because the process was very long. So when I received that message, I was over the moon. Obviously, I was really happy. And the best part was that I was able to celebrate that with people that I really love. And I'm really lucky for that support system, because they were really excited for me. They were more excited than I was. It was a really happy moment. It was a mix between, is that me?
A lot of feelings.
Is that me? And I was really happy, trying to figure out, how am I going to prepare? How am I going to give my speech? What do I have to do? So it was a really nice moment, but also a commitment that I have to live up to and display in my work every day.
That's amazing. During that time till now, the achievements and the experience and awards that you've had, what is one thing that you can tell for the youngest generation? As you know, the young generation nowadays, and mostly because the world is going on digital, all about numbers. And we can sense that there is a 40% of the new generation, they really consider their achievements as numbers. I just want to run fast and do more as a number, without the purpose is there. So how you keep your achievements and all the awards that you get, and really make it linked to a true purpose, not only to get fast and things.
Okay, good question. What I love. I think I belong to Gen Z. So I'm almost, a millennial, but half Gen Z and half millennial. But what I think innovation and change is important. I'm really proud of the new generation because I love how they're, always thinking about new ways to do things, because I think change is the driver to success. So that's something I really value and I love about the new generation. But you're right, I've been in that cycle many times. It's impossible to balance between work, family, commitments, social life, and keep it all together. You'll go insane. I have gone insane so many times because
it's burn you out.
It is, especially nowadays. Companies, employers expect so much from you, but so does your family and your friends. So I understand how difficult the pressure is on young people. But I think my philosophy is work hard in your 20s and 30s and you'll thank yourself later. So I do not encourage the philosophy of waiting and lying back. Of course you should keep a balance. You're smart, you're an adult, you have to have that space. Let's say do something fun on a weekend, go out with friends every once in a while, but work hard, because I think that's important to getting the retirement feeling later, and feel like you've achieved something. I think the other message is always try new things, go out of your comfort zone, try to learn, take the courses, chase the certificates, find mentors, find good people that you can trust, and they'll share information and knowledge with you. Because honestly, one of the things that I did that changed my life and my career is finding trustworthy mentors, and I'm fortunate to have crossed paths with really talented people who have been generous enough to share their experience and knowledge with me. That's shaped who I am as a person. That would be my message. Don't be scared. A lot of people sometimes criticize me for taking risks or career shifts. I don't regret that. That was the best decision I did in my career.
That's amazing.
Getting out of my comfort zone, trying something new. You will not learn if you don't do that. That's what I feel.
That's amazing. And especially like nowadays, me personally, like we face that. You study engineering, then you have to stay in your field. So taking risk to your journey is really like essential.
Exactly.
It's really amazing to hear that from you.
Thank you.
I was the other day, a week ago, I was trying to read a marketing book called Seth Godin.
Mm-hmm.
And there was really an amazing saying that I really liked. It says that you cannot be seen until you learn how to see. So I really wondered, what did you have to learn so you can see through people?
That is true, and you don't realize that when you're in your early career years. You're always in your own bubble. I think that for me translates as you have to listen more than you talk. Mm-hmm. And we all fall into that. I've fallen into that. I try to talk, I try to prove myself. Oh my God, especially when you're young. You just want to prove yourself. You're the youngest person in every place, and all you want to do is, oh, look at me, I'm so smart, I can do it. I'm just like you guys. You see all these inspiring, experienced people, and all you want to do is chase things.
Goals
Exactly, and you forget the joy of life. You have to enjoy it. Being young is a privilege, it's a gift from God. And to sit back, relax, observe, and try to learn more about my environment. So as I grow older, I stop trying to prove myself so hard. I listen, and that's, sometimes people value that. Because if you go into a place, it's your first week, and you act like you know everything, that's the best way for you to make enemies.
Exactly.
People are going to be like, oh, why is she so arrogant? So especially in communications and marketing, the essence of this field is learning to see people and making them feel heard and seen. This is what I love. When I talk about purpose, for me, this is what the purpose of communications is, which is helping deliver the voices of people who don't have a voice.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
especially since, development is close to my heart. So when I talk about impact for me is, it's a set of things, but first, the voices of vulnerable people, and how communications shapes those voices and brings the light on important issues.
Yeah.
So it's more about people rather than yourself. And for some people that's an issue. For me, it isn't. I love working in the backstage and helping people bring their stories out. I don't mind speaking on a stage, but one of the moments that stuck to me is when I was working with a leader in one of my past work experience, and they were struggling on how to speak in a media interview for a really big international media channel. And my message to them was, they were really worried. They said, I can write all the reports, I can calculate the budgets, I can do all the fancy stuff, but I'm really terrified of holding a microphone and talking to a camera. I was like, okay, so you manage $1 million budgets.
Yes.
You do amazing things every day. You're a smart political expert. You don't need to be good at everything. I'm not good at everything. You can do that, but I cannot do it.
Yes.
So just remember who you are. Trust yourself. Smile. I gave them tips about how to, look at someone's forehead if you're nervous.
That's a technique.
Exactly. We know that at Toastmasters, and they were really happy. They were able to perform well. Interview went really well. There were some, issues. We fixed them later in editing, but they were happy and they thanked me later. And they said, thank you for all the work. You were very patient with me, and thanks to you, I was able to answer all the questions. And for me, these are the things that drive my passion every day. I love helping people.
That's amazing. And part of that mentoring, it's really like a concept that we use and we learn in Toastmasters. You were before, in 2019, the Vice President of Education in Toastmasters. And as we all know, that mentorship program is their goal. So you being a mentor in a club that full of 40 members, how was that experience for you? And especially nowadays, now in the Toastmasters clubs, it's often mixing the differentiation between being a coach and being a mentor, because they're really different concepts. So what was your experience about that?
Okay, so different theories and schools of leadership see leadership and management differently. And I personally believe that management and leadership are two different things. Coaching is a different thing. Everyone has, there are years of debates over this topic.
Yes.
And business scholars always have different opinions and fight about it. But personally, I think that the essence of leadership is guiding others and helping them see who they are, rather than directing them or giving them a textbook to work off of. So that's what being a Vice President of Education at Toastmasters helped me do. I learned how to listen. I learned how to guide others and help them find their voice, help them find their path and journey. Because as a VPE, your main role is to help people find their curriculum, their program, and understand, link their career goals to their pathway to what they're studying, and match them with suitable mentors who are similar in personality and goals. So it was a very valuable journey for me, because it was my first time experiencing being a leader. And the club is big, I won't lie to you, it was a heavy journey. There were some issues because you cannot make everyone happy. That's the issue. There was a big responsibility. You have to be an advisor to the president, and it wasn't easy, especially for me. But I'm grateful for that journey and contributed to who I am today. And I made a lot of mistakes. So that's good, because I'm not doing those mistakes today.
That's amazing. It's like the club provide for us not only learning public speaking and leadership, but to experience the process of being an officer, make mistakes.
Yes, and I think that's also one of the benefits of joining Toastmasters is that you get a taste of what a workplace is. You get to be a leader. You feel like you're making an impact and you do something meaningful. Not many organizations provide that. So it's like a free internship.
Exactly.
Not free, internships are free, but you can get it really easily if you shine, if you show, collaboration with people, if you show that you're committed, you can become an officer, and that's going to be great on your CV and career.
That's amazing. In communication, it's not only being heard, but it's truly understood and seen from inside. Like a conflict that happened in your life and communication, that you really felt that people are not seeing what you're saying, but only hearing it.
If I had $1 for every time I've been in that situation, I would have been a millionaire. Because this is, that's part of, what's difficult about work is not work itself, it's the politics and it's dealing with people. Oh my God. That's why I think, people don't even realize that every day, everything you do involves a component of communication. That is, talking to me, Murooj, if you were my supervisor, I have to talk to you. I have to have communication skills. I need to convince you. I need to understand you and see you and hear you rather than just, being not being reactive and being proactive. So that's this is a situation that happens even with family.
Exactly.
You know that everyone goes through this situation many times a day, I would say, or a week. So I'll give you just one example that strikes me that I can remember now. One of my supervisors in the previous job was someone who is very numbers driven, very technical. They were not an engineer, but they were a business graduate.
Okay.
And
makes sense.
Exactly. So they worked in really big consultancies. They've worked in really big companies, and they're very, very numbers driven. So sometimes they always think about results, profit, numbers, and they don't look at the bigger picture. They sometimes miss human emotions, which is fine. I understand. They were an amazing person, by the way. I learned so much from them, but the differences in personalities, that's where how conflict arises. And I always had to have a sheet of paper, a sheet of numbers to make a case. I always had to have, but sometimes, and they were not a social media person. They weren't a marketeer. I was. Exactly. Yeah. And that was why it was difficult, because I see things in a certain way. I see the message. Marketeers are known as really creative people. Marketeers are known as people who look
beyond the picture.
They look at things like their art. And I had to stop them for a while and say, okay, thank you. I appreciate your inputs. And of course, we're going to make sure that we're going to have all the numbers, all the data. But I also want us to look at how is this going to sound. When a farmer in Mosul hears that and she doesn't, she's not the most technical person in the world, how is she going to feel?
Receive the message, right?
It has to be simple that you can explain it to your mom, to your grandma. And when I started giving them these examples, they were convinced. You have to learn to be diplomatic. You have to learn, but I made them feel heard. I made them feel seen, and I didn't dismiss their opinion. If I did that, we would have been fighting. The project would fall, and we wouldn't even continue. So that's one of the examples. That person was not hearing, was not listening. I wasn't listening either. We both tried to listen to each other, and that's what led to a good result and a good outcome.
That's amazing. If we want to leave like a message to our listeners, those who know Toastmasters, but really they are hesitating to join it, what advice you would let them know? What advice you would give them?
Okay, I would say don't waste time. It's a great experience. It's really valuable, and I think that when people look at Toastmasters, they think, oh, it's just a cute public speaking club.
Yes.
You're investing in your professional development, and if you're not doing it now, then when are you going to do it? When you're older, you have kids, you have a family, it's more difficult. And I think that if you just graduated, if you're still in college, the best investment you can make is to go to Toastmasters or any other, clubs, social clubs, professional development hubs, and you take a step. You start to see people. You just get out of your comfort zone. Once the first step is the hardest.
Yes.
And I know that a lot of, I remember that some of the main challenges that were stopping people from applying is that they think you need to have perfect English.
Yes,
You
that's
don't.
a misunderstanding always.
You don't, because it's a public speaking club. It's not an English language institution. You don't have to have perfect English skills. Many of our members don't.
Yeah.
You just have to be willing to learn. You don't even need to be 100% confident. You don't need to be I still do so
you
you
learn the concept.
You just have to have the willingness in you to learn, and I promise you that you are not going to be in loss. You're going to learn something. You're either going to make friends, you are going to grow your confidence and communication skills, you're going to be a true leader. That would be my message.
That's amazing. Thank you so much, Maryam.
Thank you. It's been great being here today. Thank you for having me, Murooj.
You're welcome.
Always a pleasure.